Hi again then guys, and welcome to what is, for now at least, going to be the final episode of Ultimate Exotics on Gran Turismo. We had 3 bonus episodes, of course, when the series had ended previously, and this series will definitely return in the future of Gran Turismo as well, because there are new supercars, hypercars, megacars confirmed for GT Sport, such as the LaFerrari. So we will definitely be revisiting this series down the line. Now, when that will be, of course, is a whole different thing, but suffice to say, we will be seeing more of this series eventually. But the way that we're capping off this series is with a vehicle that we have already kind of covered. We've covered another form of it, the Ford GT. But the difference is this is the concept version, whereas, of course, the production models, the 05 or the 06, are both premiums. And for those who perhaps don't know, that means that they have better graphics, a fully detailed interior, and for the most part, most premium cars can also be visually tuned, and the Ford GTs can be. This one can't. There are no body upgrades. You can change the colour though, so you do have some options there, and overall it is slightly visually different. And I don't just mean the fact that the graphics aren't quite as good, that's obvious, but the design of the car itself is actually different. And there are 3 primary differences between the concept and the road car. Now, there are probably more, but there are 3 that stand out the most. And they are the fact that the concept version does not have a rear bumper, which, in my opinion, looks so much better than the road car. It makes the car look much chunkier, much more reminiscent of the GT40, and also sleeker. Obviously on a road car there are different laws and regulations that you have to abide by, and that's a shame because quite often that leads to cars not looking quite as good as the concept did. The essential shape though of the GT concept did reach production, which is pretty cool for a concept car. Usually they are quite heavily reworked, but the design for the most part did make it to the road, which is pretty cool. That's something which is easy to underappreciate or underestimate, but that doesn't happen often for manufacturers. Often the concept is nothing like the road car, but the Ford GT is pretty close to it. Now, apart from that rear bumper, the 2 other primary differences which you might notice are also the tyres. It has white lettering, like a race car, on the tyres, which I personally love. And any game that has that as an option, such as Midnight Club LA for instance, or Forza Horizon, I will always put those lettered tyres on a car, or pretty much always actually, always for an exotic, definitely. Because it just makes the car look so much more aggressive, it makes it look like a race car on the street, and also if you look at a car such as this one, this is a perfect example. If you park this next to the production version on the game, the design of the car is totally changed in terms of the visual impact that it has by the wheels and the tyres, because on the road car it's the overall silhouette that defines the shape of the car and the stance, whereas if you look at this concept version, it's actually the wheels that define the stance. The wheels are the 4 big quadrants of the design, and they stand out because of the white lettering. It makes them pop even more, and I personally love that. And the 3rd big difference is the headlights. The headlights are more oblong rather than circular, which is an interesting difference, but one which I personally do really like because it's very reminiscent of the GT90 concept, which is one of the fastest cars from Gran Turismo's past. It was featured on GT2. I don't think it was ever featured before or since, definitely not since. And that's an awesome car. The handling wasn't great, and apparently in real life as well it has awful handling, but it's an extremely quick car. 720 horsepower, you know the drill. It's awesome. But what then about this concept? Because, to be fair, this is a 1 million credit concept car. Now, when the production version is only 150 grand, that's a pretty big deficit between the 2. Why buy the concept version instead of the road car? Or even, as an alternate question, should you buy it as well as the road car? Because sometimes concept versions are really good. The Viper GTSR concept, for instance, is a fantastic car, and it's totally different to the other Vipers. The handling has its own unique signature because of that huge rear diffuser, the longer nose cone, the big rear wing, much more of a GT race car style setup to the handling rather than a more happy-go-lucky, tail-happy kind of road car. The concept doesn't have that. So is that the case with the Ford GT? Does it feel different to the production version, or is it just basically the same? Well, there are some changes. There are definitely some similarities as well. You also have the 5.4 litre Supercharged V8, of course it's mid-engine, rear-wheel drive. The PP level is very similar, 660, which is pretty high for a supercar, and it has similar power. But a little bit more, 948 horsepower, so about 8 horsepower more than the road version. That's not a huge difference, of course, but it's a difference nonetheless. The torque is 850 foot-pounds, and that's something that's easy to skip over, but that is a huge number. And the weight of the car is also pretty good. Not necessarily remarkable compared to the production version at 1194 kilos, but definitely not heavy. That is, again, very good for what is essentially just a show car at the end of the day. Now obviously you can't tune the show car in real life, they wouldn't let you, so it's highly theoretical in terms of all of these numbers that you're putting out, but even so, that's a good number to be working with. The horsepower per tonne is nearly 800, which can even give plenty of race cars a great run for their money, as can that PP level. So can it actually compete in those higher PP levels? Because the road version definitely can. I did an X-Tunes build for the production Ford GT, and it's a very good car, especially on the right track, a track such as the Le Mans, which allows you to use all of that performance in a straight line, as well as surprisingly good cornering ability. So does the concept? Well, in some ways it's about as good as the road version. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better in any particular way. It's about the same in a straight line. There's a negligible difference between the two, maybe a slight advantage in a straight line, but as I said, not by much at all. Around corners, I would have to give the road car the advantage, and that's not actually the fault of the concept, it's the fault of the fact that it's not a premium. Premium cars just handle better. The handling has more feedback, and they just get you more involved with the driving, so that's no fault of the car, as I said. Overall, it's a car which is not an essential purchase. It's an interesting alternative, and it certainly looks great, but it's not a car which everyone must buy. But that's it overall for Ultimate Exotics, and I'll see you guys next time. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.